There's a guy named Jeffrey. Jeffrey doesn't just think about things. Jeffrey thinks about thinking about things. He's the kind of man who will have a full conversation in his head before he even opens his mouth. It's complete with your response, his comeback, the awkward pause, and a 30-second post-analysis of how it went. Listen, one day while Jeffrey was at church, he spotted a girl standing right across the lobby on a Sunday morning. And instead of walking over like a functional human being, Jeffrey started running the simulation. What if she's not interested? What if her dad is watching? What if I trip on the way over? What if God is telling me to wait? What if it means waiting till next Sunday? What if next Sunday she's not here? What if? She left Jeffrey, walked right out the door, and Jeffrey was still standing there, thinking. But then there's another kind of man, Macedon. I know, that name sounds like what happens when a Navy SEAL and a biblical judge accidentally fill out the same birth certificate. That is entirely intentional. Macedon doesn't overthink, he discerns. He doesn't ignore his past, he learns from it, and leaves it be in the past. He doesn't ignore the future, he plans for it, and he lets go. And when it's time to be present, he's fully and completely there. He's not distracted by yesterday. He's not anxious about tomorrow. He's standing in the room, looking you in the eye, moving when God says to move. Jeffrey and Macedon could be the same man. And in fact, they are the same man at different stages of surrenderance. Yes, surrenderance. It's a new word. I came up with it. Thank you. No pictures, please. And today we're figuring out how to stop being Jeffrey. Remember that story I told you on how Jeffrey was in the church and he missed that opportunity to talk to that girl? Guess what? That was me. I was Jeffrey. And I used to think deeply about everything all the time. I was almost nihilistic. And I genuinely believed that it made me wise. But here's what I didn't understand. There is a difference between a man who thinks deeply and a man who thinks constantly. One is wisdom, the other is a prison you built yourself and forgot where the door was. Threw away the key. Here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. A lot of men are using deep thinking as a spiritual sounding excuse not to act. We call it discernment, we call it God-seeking, we call it being thorough. But if you've been thinking and praying about the same decision for the last 3 years and still haven't moved, that's not wisdom, that's fear wearing a theology degree. I've always hated the saying, I'm thinking about it, or I'll get around to it. Guess what? Listen, not everything needs to happen, of course. Yeah, sure. But the statement, I'm thinking about it, it never goes anywhere. I'm thinking about getting that book. And let's say you get that book, but did you set your heart on actually reading it? Listen, God does not call you to be paralyzed. He calls you to be led. And a man who is truly led by the Spirit knows when to think, when to be still, and when to get off the bench and go. So here's what we're breaking down today. 3 things your brain keeps getting wrong about time. Thinking about the future, staying in the present, and learning from the past. Listen, if you get these 3 things right, you won't just think better, you will live better. Today I'm going to be breaking down a 3-phase framework that I've built myself from scripture, some philosophy, Greek words, and psychology, all built into one video for your viewing. Let's open the project. Phase 1. Your brain was made to think, not to run 24/7. God designed your mind to process, reflect, and plan, but He never designed it to run at full speed with no off switch. Even God rested on the 7th day, and He's omniscient, omnipotent, out of space, out of time, out of sin. He's sinless. And listen, He didn't rest because He was tired. He rested because rest is a principle, not a weakness. It amazes me that we think rest and taking a chill pill for a second is weakness. Yes, stay on mission. Stay on mission and stay on the grind. Stay on purpose. But it's okay to, I hate the saying, but unplug. Pull away for a little bit. Take a sabbatical. But don't take a sabbatical from Jesus. The psalmist says, "Be still and know that I am God." That word still in Hebrew, Rapha, means to let go, to cease striving. Like I said, it's okay to unplug. Stay on mission when you get back up. Yeah, sure, but it's okay to unplug sometimes. It's okay to chill. I used to think that you go. No. You have to, yes, stay on mission. Don't weave off your mission because you're tired. But it's okay to rest. Let your mind sit and think. Not deeply, just almost about nothing. It means to release your grip. God is not asking you to become intellectually passive. He's asking you to stop white-knuckling every moment with an analysis. The Greeks had a practical word for wisdom. Phronesis. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Phronesis. Aristotle argued it wasn't just about knowing what was right. It was knowing when to act and when to wait. A man who only reflects and never acts isn't wise. He's paralyzed. And a paralyzed man isn't useful to God, to his family, or to himself. Your brain is a tool, a powerful one. But even the best tool needs to be put down sometimes. God literally said, "Be still," and your brain said,
"No thoughts, head full."
That's not faith, bro. That's a glitch. Run an update. Listen, your brain isn't dumb. Your brain is like a truck engine, powerful, built to haul heavy things. But if you leave it running in the driveway 24 hours a day, you're not hauling anything. You're just burning gas and waking up neighbors. And at some point, the neighbors stop being so polite about it. Now, if your brain was built for a purpose and not constant operation, that raises the next question. What is it actually supposed to be doing? Because here's where it gets interesting. Most men are thinking about the future, but they're doing it wrong completely. Phase 2. There is a time to think about the future and there is a time to stop. Here's the truth. Planning is biblical. Proverbs 21:5 says, "The plans of diligent lead to profit." Joseph planned for 7 years of famine before it arrived. Nehemiah surveyed the walls in the middle of the night before he even picked up a brick. Planning isn't optional, okay? It's stewardship. But there is a massive difference between planning and worrying dressed up in a suit. A lot of men aren't planning. They're rehearsing disasters. They're running worst case scenarios in their heads and calling it a strategy. They're pre-suffering for things that may never even happen. Jesus said in Matthew 6, "Don't be anxious about tomorrow." He didn't say don't think about tomorrow. He said don't be anxious. The difference is the posture. The difference is the perspective. The difference is the narrative. The difference is the preparation. Planning says, here's what I'll do. Anxiety says, here's everything that can destroy me. One moves you forward, the other just exhausts you in place. Psychologists call the other version rumination, repetitive passive focus on distress without resolution. And listen, study after study shows it doesn't solve problems. It amplifies them. It makes them louder. You think you're being thorough, but you're just suffering in advance. Listen, man, you're not planning. You're doom scrolling your own future without a phone. Make the plan, give it to God. That's literally the move. Planning for the future is wise. Spending 4 hours mentally rehearsing a conversation that hasn't happened yet, complete with their facial expressions and your perfect comeback, is not wisdom. That is a one-man improv show. You're the writer, you're the actor, and the only audience. And the reviews aren't even good. So we finally stop over-planning the future. But here's where it gets even more interesting, because the real battlefield isn't in the future at all. It's right here, right now. It's in the present moment, and men are completely absent from it. Phase 3. The present moment is actually where God lives. Let me preface, God is omniscient. He's outside of time. But the only place we can meet him is now. So we're going to think about it like that. Here's something that should stop you cold. God's name is I am. Not I was, not I will be, I am. Present tense right now in this moment. Yes, God will always, he always will be, and he always was. He is. Or in more simpler terms, God lives in non-linear time because he lives outside of time. And he's a constant, but we live in linear time, which means that we can't slow it down, we can't speed it up, we can't go into different places into time. We live in linear time. So, and because of that, we also live in the present moment. Because we can't bend time, we live in the present moment, which means that the only place we can meet God is in said present moment. Basically, God is constant, we are linear, so we can only meet God in the present moment. He is now, then, and will be, but the only place we can meet him is now, in the moment, wherever you are. He's present tense, right now, in the moment. To us humans, he is in the present, because that's the only place we can meet him. Kind of complicated, but it's alright. When you're constantly living in your head, replaying what was, or pre-living what might be, you are literally absent from the place where God said he is. The present moment. The present moment isn't just where life happens, it's where God meets you. And you keep missing the meeting, the opportunity. Come on, man. I don't understand how we get into these mindsets of, I gotta plan for the future, I gotta plan for the future. But guess what? Planning so much for the future, you'll never be in the present to be into the future. Think about it. If you plan all your years throughout your life, from 20 to 80, let's say you think you're gonna make it to 80, right? 20 to 80, every day planned. Number one, you're not flexible, but that's a whole different conversation in itself. Let's say let's say you plan 20 to 80, but it took you 40 years just to plan all that. You're probably in either 13 to 18 right now, around, or maybe even 20 or 30. So 40 years onto that, you're at least 50 to 70. So you planned all that, but you never did anything in those years that you planned. So both planning and worrying can be bad for you. Modern psychology backs this up too. It's so interesting. Research on what's called mind wandering shows that people are less happy when their mind drifts from what they're doing, even if what they're doing is ordinary. Presence itself produces peace. Jeffrey never talked to that girl, and I want to be honest with you, that's not the tragedy. The tragedy is that Jeffrey had been doing that his whole life. Missing the moments, missing conversations, missing callings. Not because he was lazy, not because he didn't care, but because he had convinced himself that the longer he would think about something, or he thought about something, the more prepared he was for it. But he didn't know that the only way to be brave, the only way to be bold is take your foot and put it in front of you. Take the other foot and put it in front of you. Keep moving even when you don't feel exactly prepared. And listen, I'm not telling you to not be prepared. When you have that big decision coming, towards you, like moving, I get it, you want to be prepared. But if you can feel God's tug and say, hey, let's do this. Forget about your thoughts for a second and go with what God is telling you to do. Another thing, let's think about it in a metaphor. Imagine you have two ways to go in business: your own business or a 9-to-5. People get so scared, they'll stay in that middle ground for years, but then they'll lose both of the opportunities. When in reality, what they could have done is, go left and see if the personal business route worked. If it didn't work, then they just, do a U-turn. Do a U-turn. Listen, preparation without action is just a very elaborate way of standing still. Some of you have been preparing for years, thinking, planning, praying, analyzing, and God has been standing in the hallway waiting for you to just walk out the door. He's not waiting for a perfect plan. He's waiting on someone who's willing to listen to what they're being called to. So listen, the difference between Jeffrey and Macedon isn't just intelligence. It isn't just gifting. It isn't even faith. It's submission. Jeffrey submits to his thoughts. Macedon submits his thoughts to Christ. You will never think your way into a life God has for you. You have to live your way into it. One present moment at a time. One act of obedience at a time. One surrender at a time. The man you're becoming isn't in your head. He's on the other side of your next move. So make it. Stop living in your head. God's waiting for you in the real world. If this hit you somewhere real, share it with one man who needs to hear it. Not because I need the numbers, but because someone in your life is still standing in that church lobby, running the simulation, missing the moment. Send it to him. And if you're new here, subscribe. We talk about what it actually looks like to be a man of God in the real world. Drop in the comments where you are the most stuck, overthinking the future, missing the present, or living the past. Be honest. That's where the growth starts. You could be in all three, and that's okay. At least you're acknowledging it. You live life once, one singular time. What are you gonna do about it?